What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about new Survivor. How exciting! So, today we are talking about Survivor South Africa Season 8 Immunity Island. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and it seems like Survivor has just taken the island theme and just run with it. So I'm excited to see how Immunity Island plays out. I'm super excited that we're just getting new Survivor content. And this was like, I would say, solid premiere, 7 out of 10.
Oh,
So
yeah, I agree. I enjoyed the premiere. Definitely something to look forward to after this long Survivor hiatus. We basically haven't had new Survivor in over a year. And yeah, the island thing, Survivor South Africa Season 7 was Island of Secrets. This season is Immunity Island, US Survivor. We have Island of the Idols. Like, honestly, I'm confused.
yeah, I don't really get it. So whatever. For those of you who don't know, the reason that Survivor South Africa was able to continue to have a season was they had it domestically. So there's the Wild Coast, I think they called it, of South Africa, and so they had um, their season entirely within South Africa, so they didn't have to coordinate with like travel restrictions and stuff like that because of COVID.
Yeah, and for Survivor Australia, they also filmed a season in Australia. So, US, the only season going back to abroad and going to Fiji to film their season. So, I thought it was cool. Hopefully, maybe throughout this season, we'll get some like history about South Africa and the Wild Coast. Yeah. So they spoke a little bit about some of like the weather in the Wild Coast, that it rains a lot, and we saw it rain throughout this first premiere episode. So I think it would be really interesting to learn more about the history of this place.
Yeah, I think it's really cool when we get to hear about the history of the locations that we're filming at, especially because I feel like Survivor hasn't done that as much recently because they've been in Fiji for so long. So I hope that they'll tell us a little bit more about the Wild Coast. Other than that, one of the contestants said the Wild Coast is wild, and I was like, really, really astute observation. But yeah, I really hope that we get to see more of it. And even though it's a pretty rainy place, I hope that it doesn't rain the whole time because I feel like it gets really miserable when it's rainy the whole time. And I feel like it kind of impedes strategy because no one wants to go anywhere because it's raining.
Yeah, I was going to say it would probably stifle gameplay because everyone is just stuck in their shelter the entire day. I think for me, overall thoughts of this episode, it felt like a case of super fans playing too hard too fast. And it was all the men. Like Jason, Dino, Renier, Chappies. I'm like, y'all, why do you do this? You all are super fans of this game, and then yet you all are like stepping in to be the leader role, or you're trying to do too much too fast. You just have to chill.
Yeah, it's like if you call yourself a super fan, you should know that like this is a rookie mistake. So
Yeah, and what's funny because in the Rob Has a Podcast preseason interviews where Shannon and Mike, they interviewed all 20 contestants, and the men specifically, I think these four guys, they did some kind of combination of the player that they're most like and most want to be like and most play like. They did a combination of Tony from US Survivor, a two-time winner, and you would be like, Tony's a great Survivor player. Rob, who won Survivor South Africa Season 7, also played a really dominant game last season. And David from Survivor Australia, who won also and played a pretty dominant game. So, like, these guys want to be the best of the best. And we saw multiple confessionals from these four people saying, I'm the next winner. I'm going to be an all time great. Like, put my plaque on the wall right now. And I'm like, it's the TikTok that goes, oh, step on the gas. No, step on the brakes.
yeah, I feel like the one thing is about people wanting to be like Tony is that Tony is not your typical Survivor winner. Like most people cannot play a game like Tony and win. So
I
I
think
feel like they need to like realize that Tony should not be who they're molding themselves after unless they're really, really sure that they can do it well. And I feel like They can't.
I think the Tony game is a hard winning strategy. Like it's hard to replicate, and it feels like Jason, Dino, Renier, Chappies, they're sort of being Tony and game changers where you go out too fast, you're building underground spy bunkers. Like Tony game changers, that is not the winning formula to win the game. Trying to canoodle with the other tribe on day 3, not how you're going to win the game. And it just sort of funny because they all came in so confident, like best player ever, and yet they're making these rookie mistakes. And I feel sort of bad because they're all such super fans. A majority of this cast are super fans. They've seen like US seasons, Australian seasons, and the Survivor South African seasons, but they're sort of going up in flames like Jacob Derwin in Ghost Island.
Yeah, I feel like the problem with super fans is that they go way too hard, and it's weird because you would think after seeing people go way too hard time and time again and it failing, you would know better, but
can't
whatever.
help themselves, I guess. It just feels so bad, to be a super fan and then to go up in flames and to be a first boot or like one of the first 3 boots. Hopefully Dino, Renier, Chappies can adjust their gameplay after what happened this episode. But honestly, I low-key feel like those 3 guys and Jason, who we saw get voted out, are playing way too hard, way too fast, putting targets on their back, and people can probably recognize like these dudes are super fans and they're playing too hard, too fast.
Yeah, and I feel like at least one person on Renier's tribe said like, I'm suspicious of him because he's like out of the gate being really sneaky. So yeah, I definitely agree that they're gonna get their comeuppance.
Something to look forward to, I guess, or to keep an eye out for. So we start off this season with random tribes. We got the green tribe and the orange tribe. Alyssa, you know their tribe names. I will go by green and orange.
I did not know their tribe names. I looked them up and told you while I was looking at the Wikipedia screen. But yeah, so random tribe drawing, it was really interesting. Rachel and I were talking before the podcast started about how random it is because sometimes in US Survivor, at least, there's been accusations that their supposed random drawings aren't actually that random and that production like rigs it to be more interesting in some way or another. So, but it seemed like this was truly a random drawing. They had 5 women and 5 men on each tribe, and it was just they picked their buffs and we're off to the races.
Yeah, I thought the random draw was interesting because there is no meddling, which I guess you could still have meddling in it. Like Alyssa was saying, we were talking about this before the podcast started, and Alyssa was saying in another season, they like forced you to pick the top like bag in the bucket, so it wasn't really random because then production could still place like, oh, I think this person would fight with this person, let's put them on the same tribe. So at least this, it's like the Survivor gods, if you get screwed over, it's the Survivor gods telling you weren't meant to play the game. And so I like the random thing. There's no production meddling of like, we think they won't get along, we think they will get along kind of thing. So I like this.
Yeah, and I feel like this is something that we'll get to later, but I feel like production definitely could have meddled a little bit in the season.
Yes.
Since there are people who apparently know each other. Like, we'll talk about that when we get to like that part of the podcast, but I just SMH, so hard.
So yeah, going into the first immunity challenge, you have 2 minutes to pick up supplies, fruits, wood, stuff like that in the forest. So you do also have the option to find an immunity necklace that will keep you safe at the first tribal council that you go to. And immediately when Nico said this, I was thinking, I feel like you should not go for it. It is too early. You're going to look so sketchy and people aren't going to trust you. You're playing for yourself in day 1, minute 1 of this game because, oh, people are going to think, why did you go and get the immunity necklace? You could have gotten fruit for the tribe or wood for the tribe. Why are you doing this to protect yourself? And, you can say, okay, it's Survivor. You never know. Safety is great. And you would probably rather have safety for the first tribal you go to rather than being the first boot off of your tribe. But personally, I think it's too early. Dino, the only person to get it too out of both tribes, makes him look even more sketchy. Strike one for Dino. Dino also messes up later in the episode as well. And I feel like if someone from both tribes got it, it would look a lot less sketchy. But because Dino was the only one to get it, I'm like, no, strike one for Dino.
Yeah, and I feel like part of the thing is when you start with like 10 people on each tribe, you only have a 10% chance of getting sent home anyways. And it's like, I feel like you almost increase your chances of getting sent home the next week by giving yourself immunity for this week. So I personally would not have done it.
I agree. I think episode 1, the first 3 days, the first 6 days, you should probably rely on your social game. You should build those bonds. You shouldn't rely on, oh, I'm safe for this day, because I agree. I think Dino could be on the chopping block coming up very, very soon, especially after the other sketchy stuff he does later in the episode. It's like you're putting an unnecessary target on your back and you're drawing attention to yourself. Like, if the viewers and if your tribe mates don't really know you on the first episode, like if I as a viewer don't know your name the first episode, maybe that's a good thing because you're not super in things that you're going to get voted out soon. And on the other hand, if we do know your name, like Dino's, Jason, Chappies, maybe not a good thing because you're putting yourself too much out there. And so yeah, I would not go for the necklace day one. 10 people, like you just said. If it was a 6-person tribe, maybe, but it's just so hard to tell. And I think you should rely on your social game those first 3 days to get in, make bonds, and use that to not get yourself voted out.
Yeah, so that was a mess. I feel like a whole nother mess was, in addition to having individual immunities, there was a tribal advantage thing. And Nico asks, like, oh, who got the tribal advantage? And the person who got it didn't fess up until Nico was like, hey, you like need to tell me this. And I feel like that puts you, it makes you look so suspicious, even though you did something good for your tribe. And it's like, if you did something good for your tribe, just say it. Don't like be holding out. So
it was so awkward. Nico asking twice, Renier awkwardly raising his hand, and I don't know. It's like you can't really fault Renier for that, even though it makes him look very sketchy because, oh, you see some parchment on the ground. Maybe he didn't really read that the front of it said tribe advantage. You just, in Survivor, you're supposed to pick up parchments on the floor. So he didn't probably realize it was for the tribe. And then until Nico had to bring it up 2-3 times to fess up to it. So it's like, okay, you can't really fault Renier for picking something up, sort of like Jamal in Island of the Idols losing his vote after he picked something out of a tree. Like, it's just so dumb because it unnecessarily put a target on his back for something that wasn't even his fault. If it was a clue to an idol, perfect. He shouldn't tell the whole tribe about it.
I think the thing is more like look at the paper as you're picking it up. So
maybe, yeah. I think, right, it did say tribe immunity or tribe advantage on the front of it, but I guess with adrenaline, maybe he's not reading that quick because like you're really hyped up for the whole game and you're like, OMG, I just found something. But yeah, sucks for him because I think that makes him look sort of like he's playing the game. And there was a confessional there where someone on the tribe said, oh, I didn't think he was playing the game, or I didn't think he would be that smart. But because he found this advantage, you know, he has a good eye. He knows the game because he's looking or he stumbled across something, and he's playing the game for himself because he didn't give up the advantage.
Yeah, and I think that it's so much information to give away just by like carelessly picking something up, which is why I'm saying that he should have been more discerning about it.
Yeah, so I guess we're sort of opposite here. I'm like, you can't really fault him, but I guess, yes, you can fault him. He didn't read the clue title, which that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing is you want to know what you're picking up. Because, like you said, it could be a bad thing, but whatever.
I hope there's no bad things that you can pick out of trees like Jamal.
Yeah,
like,
I thought
that's
that
just
was
so
lame.
dumb. So, yeah, speaking of Alyssa mentioning people knowing each other, we go to the tribes, and then on the Orange Tribe, we see some of the tribe dynamics, and people know each other on this tribe. So Anesu and Kieran know each other from university, and Anesu and Varda know each other from the yoga world.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because they didn't put Varna down as a yoga person. They called her a vegan lifestyle entrepreneur, I think, in her like little subtitle on the screen. And I didn't know that she was a yoga person until she was like, I know Anessa because we did yoga together. It's just like, what? It feels almost like they were trying not to let us know that they knew each other, but then they told us anyway. I don't know. It just seemed really sus because South Africa is a pretty big country. And it just seems weird that in this entire country, they like couldn't find 20 people who didn't know each other.
Exactly. I don't know. I feel like 3 people knowing each other, or you can say like Anesu knows 2 people out of 20 people on the tribe. Personally, I feel like it's a little bit unfair because even knowing someone, even if you don't know them super well, like they follow each other on Instagram or whatnot, but like you still have a connection that other people don't have. Like knowing someone like university, oh, we went to the same school at the same time, that's going to connect you and bind you two together versus other 18 random strangers on the tribe that don't know anything about anyone else. Like that is a little bit unfair in the way because Anesu and Varda both know each other. It would be different if someone was like, oh yeah, they're a podcaster for Survivor, so people just know of them. But it's not like you as podcaster know the other people that follow you kind of thing. And I don't know, if it was a season that everyone had a secret partner alliance, that everyone knew someone else secretly rather than just these 3 people knowing each other, it would be a little bit more fair. But like, I don't know, I just feel like it's unfair.
I just looked up the population of South Africa. And the population of South Africa is 58 million people. So, like, legitimately, the fact that they could not find 20 people who did not know each other is just absolutely astounding. Like, it must have come up at some point, right?
I guess. Or people like lie about it, or like they don't disclose the information that they know other people. In other Survivor seasons, we had contestants know each other. So in Survivor New Zealand season 2, 2 people named Dave and Matt, they were childhood best friends and they were cast together. Ali and Patrick Bolton from HHH in the US version went to the same college at the same time. They knew each other. And I guess a little bit more distant would be Adam Klein and Mari and Nora and Chelsea from Island of the Idols. They all went, or like separately, they went to the same colleges, but at different times. But I feel like even that kind of distinct connection where you went to the same college, but even if you weren't in the same 4-year time period at college, you still would bond with them because you can bond over the same college experiences. Like, we went to the same school.
Yeah, but again, it's just like those are pairs. When it comes down to there being 3 people, that's when I'm kind of like, are you for real? So I guess it is what it is because obviously this entire season has already been filmed. But I was just, I don't know what the word is, unpleased about it all. So
I guess peeved about the situation.
That's a good word.
Yeah, I do wonder how this will impact the rest of the game because Anesu on her tribe, she is obviously very, very well connected. We had a clip of Anesu basically saying yes to be in an alliance with everyone on the tribe. So, like, yes, good for Anesu. She is very social and she has a lot of alliances. But I could definitely see Anesu sort of being at the top of an alliance, and then she would bring in the people that she knows. So, bringing in Kieran and Varda. And then they can create a super alliance because they already have a little bit of trust there because they have that familiarity, because they know each other, they know of each other from before Survivor.
Yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. I feel like it's definitely going to be an advantage for them, but that could also prove wrong. Like, it could be they don't want the other person to expose them, so they decide to vote them off. But we'll see.
Yeah, Allie voting Patrick off pre-merge could be something like that. So we go into the fire challenge, and this is, I guess, a little thing that they have to do, a mini game in there. And so each tribe has to nominate someone to go and make fire for their tribe to win a prize. And so Chappies goes for the orange tribe, Jason goes for the green tribe. You know, another thing, I'm like, of course, it's these two guys going, like we said at the beginning of the podcast, the men, these guys, the four ones that we mentioned, you're playing too hard. Why would you volunteer or accept this position? If you were volunteered to go, I would sort of maybe say, you should say, oh, I don't know how to make fire. I don't want to go. Like, please don't send me. Like, don't put yourself in that hero position, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like with Jason, it made more sense because he was already kind of being pushed by the tribe. Like, he didn't say anything for himself. But definitely with Chappies, I was kind of like, dude, come on. So
it's sort of good to go to these things because you know there's going to probably be an advantage there, like we saw this episode. But I think the bad overweighs the good because no matter what kind of advantage that you get, people are going to be sketched out by you. They're going to think you're lying, even if you're not lying and saying, oh, there was no advantage. We just played for fire. People are going to think that you're lying, even if you're not. So they're going to think you're hiding something. There's no way around it. And so just putting yourself in that position to be doubted, to be put in the spotlight, even if you're not lying, to get an advantage, I still think is way too early.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like we kind of saw that come to fruition when they came back and the loser, I don't even remember which one of them lost anymore. But like the loser was like, or no, was it? Someone got asked, like, did the other person get anything? And when they said no, it was like immediately suspicious. And I just feel like you're putting yourself in a lose-lose.
100%. Yeah. Chappies was the one that won. And then Mike, I think, asked him, was there like other things there? So yeah, like you just said, Chappies wins, Jason loses. And then Nico says, oh, here's an advantage. You can get diplomatic immunity, which is basically like a secret bracelet to defect to the other tribe after your tribe loses an immunity challenge. So sort of like a mutiny a la Cook Islands, I think, right? Like it sort of feels like you would ditch your whole tribe, which is that an advantage? Like I think a diplomatic immunity bracelet would be so hard to play correctly because first you need to know that you're on the bottom. You're probably definitely going home. If you mutinied at the wrong time, people are going to be like, WTF, you're so sketchy by switching tribes. And then you could be on the bottom of this new tribe that you go into. You're seen as a traitor, sort of like Cochrane in South Pacific. If you like go against your whole tribe, it's so hard to play, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things also where like you might be going out of the frying pan into the fire because it's really hard in these first like few days and challenges to know what's going on in the other tribe because you really only see them via like challenges and you really only know what's happening within the tribe based on who gets voted out. So it's like you're going from a situation that may be bad but known to one that could be bad and unknown. So personally, I'm not sure I would ever take that jump.
Exactly. It's a little bit too risky because you don't know if you jump, you could just be at the bottom of the other tribe. Like you're an easy boot because you have no friends. If the other tribe is super divided, then maybe you could fit into the cracks and they could use you as a number. But I think if you mutinied this early in the game, it's only until merge that you can use this. I think your name and how people perceive you is going to follow you throughout the game as the suspicious person that's flipped on their tribe. Like it's going to follow you as sketch.
You don't want to get a reputation as a snake.
Yes, 100%. So maybe we'll see this. I feel like Chappies would be the kind of person to use it. Although, like we're saying, I think it's really hard to figure out when you would use this to use it correctly. Like there's so many variables. And if you get blindsided, like Jason, one bracelet is gone. So only Chappies has the diplomatic immunity bracelet now.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of those things where like you might not know to use your diplomatic immunity bracelet until it's too late. Like, it seems to me like this has to be played right after the immunity challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you can go back to camp, figure out that you're on the chopping block, and then be like, oh shoot, I should bail. So I feel like it also has very limited utility.
If it's sort of like if you were the most hated person on your tribe, like you were in the minority alliance, the rest of your alliance members got voted out and you were the last person standing, then maybe oh, I should use it. But I feel like by that point, once there's two people left in a minority alliance, usually the majority cracks and then you can find your way in. So even then, maybe you purposely make yourself hated so you can use this, because honestly, I feel like super fans, I could low-key see Chappies like purposefully putting himself into a bad position just to use the bracelet because it would be remembered. It would be a cool move. Like, people would be talking about it.
The thing is, when you mutiny from your original tribe, you still have to like deal with them again when you get to merge. So it's not like you're like getting off scot-free either. So I don't know.
Overall, a dangerous advantage. Honestly, probably more of a disadvantage if you're using it, because you'd see all these people at the merge anyways, and then they could be like, vote you out then. So
yeah, basically.
Alas. A bad thing. I sort of do want to see Chappies use it because I just want to see how it plays out. We just went through some possibilities, but I do want to see how it plays out.
Me too. So
we go into the immunity challenge, and so I thought this was a fun challenge. You had like the swimming portion, the climbing portion, the knot portion, the puzzle portion. It was fun, and it was like elevated and everything. Personally, I would want to be on the swimming portion, so I like any challenges with the swimming, so I like this challenge.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking about during this challenge is how sometimes I feel like the commentators of the challenge can really change the way that like different people are like perceived. Because I felt like throughout this challenge, Nico kept yelling about how bad Jason was, and I'm like, dude, we got it the first time. And I feel like it's one of those things, we might have discussed this once for US Survivor, about how like the host in like just commenting can actually change the situation. Like, they try not to, I think they just try to point out factually what is there or not there, but it really felt like he was harping on Jason for some reason, and that could also just be the editing, but like, man.
Oh my gosh, it was sort of funny when Jason kept falling and then Nico is like, Jason can't even get to the mat. Come on, Jason, like stand up, you can do it. And then climbing the rope ladder, oh, Jason, you're so slow. And it probably is editing, I guess, to make Jason look like he sucks at challenges, and maybe that's a reason why he got voted out. But it's sort of like, there's no way Jason was the only person struggling. We saw some other people struggle climbing up the rope ladders, but Nico really harped on Jason.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, if that did lead to people being like, Jason isn't actually that useful, or maybe we should blindside Jason. Or, like I said, it could just be because they know that Jason is the one who goes home this episode, then they decide to go back in editing and make it look like Jason was really bad from the start. So
guess we'll never know. We have to wait for some exit interviews and press. Like, Jason, can you swim well? Can you run? Can you walk? But yeah, so the green tribe loses. The orange tribe wins this immunity challenge. And this is where Dino, strike two, Dino, you have to chill out. He tries to whisper to Paul on the opposing tribe because in the first daily challenge, I guess not the daily challenge, this isn't the challenge, but in the first challenge to get all of the goodies, Dino, we see him trying to help Paul to go and get the necklace. So now Dino somehow thinks, me and Paul are connected because I helped him get the necklace, but Paul didn't make it to get to the necklace. And so I don't know. I feel like this is really, really bad because Dino, you just met Paul 3 days ago and now you think he's your best friend. Why would Paul help you with this? Like, where's your connection? It's not like you were on the same tribe originally and got separated or knew each other like Anesu and her friends. Like, you just met. Why would he help you?
There's no reason for him to help you, especially because right now, like you said, he didn't actually get the necklace, so it's not even like he owes you. Like, it just seemed really dumb, especially because looking like someone who's more interested in the other tribe than your own tribe this early in the game is just not a good idea.
Day 3, yeah, it's not like you knew each other and were on the same tribes and best friends and then got separated. Like, you don't know each other. Like, stop. You got to chill out, Dino. You just don't try to canoodle with the other tribe this early. You can canoodle with them later, or like, try to do some eye contact, but I'm sort of like, why would Paul help you? You don't know each other. So maybe it's something we didn't see and they had some kind of connection, but I'm like, from the outsider's perspective, it's just, Dino, you're doing too much. It's just way too much.
You need to calm down.
Yeah. So we see Dino after the challenge. They go back to camp and Dino exposes himself to the rest of the tribe. And I'm questioning it again. Strike 3. Dino, why did you tell everyone? Because, okay, I can see Dino wanted to expose himself because someone in Sean saw Dino telling the other tribe in Paul to help him to get sent to the immunity island so he would be safe, because Dino also for some reason thinks he's on the chopping block. Another question, why would Dino think he's getting voted out this episode? Maybe it's something we didn't see. Maybe Dino thinks he's on the outside, but also low-key just feels like Dino's paranoid, so he's doing all these things when he wasn't going to go home this episode anyways. So I can see, okay, you're going to expose yourself because someone saw you. You think that Sean is going to expose you, so you'd rather get ahead of the bullet and expose yourself. But also, I feel like people already didn't trust Sean, so Dino could have said, Sean is lying. I would never do something like that. I am Green Tribe all the way. Like, Sean is so sketchy. He's making up lies, so we don't vote him out this episode. Like, I think you could have easily played it off like that. Or Sean already on the chopping block, vote him out. Then you have no one spilling your secrets about trying to canoodle with Paul.
Yeah, it's also like you could also just have a conversation with Sean and be like, hey, I know that you saw, but like keep it between us and I'll owe you one. Like, it's not that hard. There are so many ways to do it that doesn't involve that.
100%. You could have had a little secret alliance with Sean and been like, we have this secret now. Don't tell anyone. I owe you, like you just said. Just Dino exposing himself, Dino thinking that he's on the bottom when we didn't have any indication. Maybe it's the editing. Maybe Dino was on the bottom of the alliance. So smart for him for trying to get sent to the immunity island. But from what we saw in the episode, Dino is doing too much, too fast.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely going to be at risk the next time the Green Tribe goes to Treble, just because he's a whole mess.
So yeah, speaking of immunity island, smart for the Orange Tribe who wins the challenge. They say, we want to weaken the other team. Let's vote someone to go to immunity that we think is going to get voted out, which 100% I agree with that. That's what I said when I was watching the episode. Like, yo, the winning tribe should vote the weakest player in the losing tribe to go to the island so that the losing tribe would have to vote out one of their stronger players. That's what they did. They send someone who is typically weaker looking or would be the typical first boot off of a tribe so that the tribe would have to vote out someone stronger. So Thoriso gets sent to Immunity Island.
Yeah, and I feel like this was, like she said when she was at Immunity Island, this was a really good thing for her. Because I don't think she was necessarily in danger of being voted out just because she wasn't like in the midst of all of the drama that was happening on the tribe. Like, there were no confessionals that were like, oh, darn, if only Thoriso had been here, we would have voted her out instead. But, like, she definitely did not have very many ins on her tribe either. So, yeah, I feel like this was a good thing for her.
I agree. From what we saw on the Green Tribe, it was a majority of 7, with Sean and Keon being the, like, people that were on the chopping block, but then no one mentioned Thoriso's name, but also Thoriso is lumped in the 3 outsiders with Sean and Keon. So lucky Thoriso, she doesn't have to face the nervousness of being on the block by being safe. And honestly, at first, I was really scared for her because she was having confessionals talking about how this isn't the tribe that she'd want to be on because these aren't people that she gravitates to naturally. She was having difficulty finding people fitting in. But I am on Team Thoriso, literally. Her confessionals and her reads on the game and the social relationships of what is happening on the game is so strong. They're literally spot on.
Dude, we're going to be talking about winner picks later, but like Thoriso, I really like her also because her voice is so calming. Like she started talking and I just found myself in a state of calm. Even when the game was like annoying me, she would just, and it would be great. So
she definitely had these spot on reads for the episode. When Jason got picked to go to the fire challenge, she had an amazing read. Like, they picked Jason because they're comfortable with him, so they're going to send him there so Jason would give them information back. And I was like, dang, yes. Normal people, I feel like, wouldn't think that far, but it seems like she is thinking 3 steps ahead, and she can put the pieces of, oh, I'm not really fitting in, but I see who is in the power, so maybe she can like get into power that way. But yeah, Thoriso on the immunity island, she gets to win immunity, and then you have a choice to either risk your vote to dig up a bag to find a clue for an idol, or you lose your vote if you don't find the bean bag. And so personally, I feel like she dug all wrong. She was digging only on one half. I feel like that is way too slow. It would have been better to like start in the middle and like use your hands and legs to dig outward. I don't know. It just seems like she only made it halfway through the pile of sand by the time the timer ran out.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where the challenge might have been designed so it was really difficult to win. Like when US Survivor had Island of the Idols, some of the like idol challenges were like designed to be like difficult to win, and that was like how you learned a lesson. Like you shouldn't take every opportunity that you see because some of them are going to be bad. Like I couldn't tell just looking at it whether like the challenge she was doing was an automatic loss or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning that it might have just been like the challenge was designed poorly. They could have poorly, but intentionally so it was difficult.
Yeah, I feel like they could, to make it more difficult, like you could have definitely rigged it and hid the beanbag like deeper down, because like we saw with Thoriso, she was only sort of at the surface of the sand. Who knows how deep that sand pit went? Maybe it's like you should be digging down, but she was digging forward kind of thing. But yeah, I'm going to be so annoyed, Alyssa, if it's like Island of the Idols and someone does a coin flip to win something. I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah, I really don't like it when it's more towards chance than actual skill, but I guess we'll see. I did like that Immunity Island was kind of like whatever island it was last season. There's too many islands. Where last season of Survivor South Africa, I mean, where it's like a good place to go, because I feel like if you go to like Exile Island and it's just miserable, that's just not as fun to watch. At least for me.
I also like how this island, it's called Immunity Island, so you know when you go you're getting immunity. I feel like when we watched Survivor South Africa season 7, sometimes when they would go to the island you would get immunity and sometimes you wouldn't. So like it was just too random. So I like how it's in the rules. You get sent here, it's immunity. So people can strategize like, oh, who's at the bottom of that tribe? Let's send them there. So it messes up their whole tribe dynamics. I like that. And so I also thought it was interesting that at Tribal Council, Nico asks Thoriso to tell everyone what happened. And then Thoriso is like, I lost my vote, guys. I can't vote today. And I think that honestly helps Thoriso so much because it makes it easier for her to tell people her story of what happened at the island. Because if Nico didn't say this and she just went back to camp and people were asking, you could say, oh yeah, I got the idol, I got the immunity necklace idol, not the hidden immunity idol. And so people would be sketchy with you, like, oh, you're lying to us. But I think because Nico asks and she said she lost her vote, I feel like people would be more accepting of the story because they might just assume, oh, to get immunity at Immunity Island, you just have to give up your vote. And so maybe they will question it less.
Except for she did say, oh, I didn't want to have to tell this part. So, because I thought you were going to say it was interesting that Nico made her say that she didn't have a vote. Because, like, in a lot of the US Survivor, if you lose your vote, you still, like, go up to the urn and pretend that you are voting. So, I just thought that was interesting.
I guess an interesting way that the rules go that Nico asked versus you go and fake a vote up at the urn, but you're not actually writing anything down. But yeah, I think Nico saying it, people might assume, oh, it's in the rules, like that kind of thing, versus, Thoriso played a game. She maybe has a clue for something. Until the next person goes to the Immunity Island, I feel like it's similar to any kind of island special places that you go to. People are going to figure out what the game is there. So you sort of have to be as truthful as possible. Otherwise, once the second person goes from your tribe, they're going to realize and be like, this person lied. They're hella sketchy.
I mean, you could also argue that, like, it's in the benefit of the other tribe to keep sending the same person over and over. So, because it's like, they must also know that there's something up at the island, and maybe it's beneficial to you if only one person from the other tribe goes to Immunity Island. So I'm curious if there's any rules about, like, being sent back to back or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess we'll see next week if the Green Tribe loses again, because I wonder if there is a rule like you aren't allowed to be sent back to back, because imagine if you made it to the merge without ever being up for elimination at tribal. Like if you just kept sending Thoriso off of this tribe, I don't know. I feel like I personally, if I were her, would be like, y'all, thanks for the immunity, but also no, because if you make it to final tribal, is being immune for the whole first half of the game something that will win you the game?
I think it depends on how well you play a second half of the game. And also if she was ever, like, in a disadvantaged position in the first place. Like, I think you might be able to successfully argue, like, it was not in my hands to keep being sent to Immunity Island. And if I hadn't gone to Immunity Island, I would still be here today because I had a good social game, or I did this, and this. Like, I think it could be a disadvantage, but it also could be an advantage. So
I guess it is how people on your tribe and the perception of it, because I feel like being the first one, the orange tribe already is like, Thoriso is weak. Let's vote her there because she's probably going to be the first boot. Not a good perception, although Alyssa and I both know Thoriso is amazing and very smart. So like us as viewers are like, yes, we want you to win. But I feel like her perception on the island, like she's already in the minority alliance on her tribe. People might push her off as like, oh, she keeps getting sent to the island because she's, quote, weak. So we're not going to vote for her to win at the end because we're just dragging her along kind of thing. So I feel like it depends on what her perception is out there. If she can twist it, like, y'all, I was never in danger because I have such a good social game kind of thing, then maybe. But if she can't twist that perception, then I think getting sent every time is probably going to look bad if you're sitting in the final two.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see, just because I think, as said, it really depends on A, how far she gets. Like, maybe this will never come to pass, and then B, how well you'd be able to play it. So, yeah.
Guess it depends. Something else to look out for. So Green Tribe loses immunity, and before they lost immunity, we saw a short clip of Sean and Keon. They were looking through the rice and the food, looking for, idle clues, as one does, and then also separating out all of the vegetables and fruit onto the ground. And honestly, I was going to be so mad at this episode if one of those two ended up being the people voted out, because the moment that someone sees them looking through the rice bags and separating out all the fruit, that is going to be the moment that puts the target on their back. Like, such a small thing is going to make them the first boot and the outcast of the team. And I wonder, like, was there other things that happened that didn't make the episode that made them more outcasted? Or was it, like, literally over nothing? I feel like looking through the rice bags, you're not doing anything wrong.
I feel like for me, the problem was that they lied about looking through the rice bags for the flint. And so it's kind of like, if you're going to do something shady, just do it, you know? So at least that's my thought.
Yeah, I guess. It sort of felt like people were grasping at straws of, let's, vote out the oldest person in the entire game and, this other person, like, because they were looking through the rice. Not like we're not going to vote out Dino, even though he was canoodling with the other tribe, although Dino was safe because he has the immunity necklace. It's just like, why was the target on their back? I need answers to that question, because looking through the rice, is that really going to get you voted out on day 3? Because if it is, and that's really the reason, I'm like, everyone, you can't do anything sketchy because you're going to get voted out first. Like, you have to just stare at the ground and like sit and don't move. Otherwise, people are going to think you're weird and trying to look for idols.
The thing is, I feel like that's the thing where you do have to, like, from the beginning, make sure that you're not doing anything that could even be perceived as sketchy. Like, I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so went off to walk to get water together. That's so suspicious. And I'm like, dude, they just, like, went to get water.
Yeah, so it's sort of like the littlest things can be the reason for your downfall, apparently. So I guess anyone playing Survivor, don't leave with another person. Don't let other people watch you look sketchy. Always be in every conversation. Never be in a twosome or a threesome, because that's not the majority. Like, you just can't do any of that, or else you're going to be on the outcast side.
Yeah, it seemed so much. Like, they all seem very extra, and I get that part of that is just like, it's the beginning of the game, and so they need to be extra while they like learn everyone else, but also take it down a notch, kiddos.
Yeah, I was going to be sort of annoyed if they were voted out, although I think voting out Sean or Keon probably is the best move in this position for everyone else on the tribe. I think flipping the vote to Jason is sort of a worse move for certain people, which we'll get about. So Jason, we see him stepping up to be the engineer of the tribe, building the shelter because he's the structural engineer. Shouldn't have stepped up, shouldn't have gone to do the fire, kind of thing. And I feel like where Jason messed up is because he was playing too hard, too quick, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I feel like Jason, he shouldn't, if he knew maybe the future, if he could see the future, he shouldn't have mutinied this episode with his bracelet. First episode, don't do that. But if he just held it back some and not pushed so hard of voting one of the 3 girls out, because the 3 blonde girls were a close, tight-knit alliance, if once he saw that, like, Smash and Renier said, no, I don't really like that plan, and he got that pushback and people didn't really want to vote one of the girls out and they wanted to vote Sean or Keon out, he shouldn't have rocked the boat. He should have just been like, okay, stop. Don't talk about that anymore.
I feel like that's the thing with, like, a lot of people. They don't know when to stop pushing. And it's like, most of the time, pushing your agenda is not actually going to help you that much in the long run.
And it's for Sean. He wanted to protect Sean so much, which it's probably the editing. We don't see how close their relationship is. Maybe they became super close somehow, but like, it's day 3. I think because you're getting pushback and people want to have Sean and Keon on the chopping block, you just have to let Sean go. I think putting your own game on the line to save Sean and Keon this episode, it's way too early to do that. Your connection with Sean is not that close that like you should die and put your neck on the chopping block for him. Like, just let him get voted out. And it's not even like Sean was the one that was getting the votes. It seemed like a majority of the people wanted Keon to get most of the votes, and then maybe you'd split the votes on Sean to, if someone has an idol or something, like Sean would have been safe anyways. You didn't need to push so hard.
Yeah, like, the whole thing was such a mess, because it's like, Jason, you've known this dude for 3 days. Just give it up. So, everything you said, basically.
He had a confessional where he says, I think it's better. I need to betray an alliance to save an alliance. Like we just said, it's way too early. Unless you were Anesu and you were saving like Varda, who you know previously, maybe that makes more sense to put your neck out there a little more. But we didn't see their relationship. Personally, for me, Sean wasn't even going to get voted out because the votes were on Keon. So Keon would have went home. You'd still have Sean there. Otherwise, you go home.
Yeah, the whole thing was questionable.
So it seems like the votes flipped onto Jason because Jason was pushing too hard to keep Sean and Keon in the game and to vote one of the blonde girls out. I think it does make sense for Jason if he really likes Sean that much. Okay, save Sean, and you want to vote one of the 3 blonde girls out because they're a tight-knit alliance. 100%. That makes a ton of sense. And so Renier, we see him saying, oh, he doesn't like unpredictability. Jason, unpredictable. We don't like Jason because he's unpredictable. So then Renier starts to spearhead this thing of let's vote out Jason because Jason is targeting the blonde girls and Renier is working with the blonde girls. So Renier and Jason are talking with Dino, and then Renier, this is an interesting, funny scene, is like pointing at Jason behind Jason's back. And I'm like, does Jason not get any spidey senses? Is he not nervous? Does he not realize like something sketchy is happening? And Renier's pointing at him while they're talking?
Apparently not. Apparently, some people just have a really bad sense of like when to be nervous. I also feel like maybe it's one of those things where like you're always nervous in Survivor, so you can never tell if your spidey senses are like tingling for real or just tingling because it's Survivor. So.
And it's the first vote, so maybe he doesn't know what those spidey senses should be. I feel like once you go to tribal and the lines are drawn, maybe you know better in your gut what the spidey senses feel like. So we can give him the benefit of the doubt there. If you're the first 3 days, you don't know who you can trust and you don't know who are your friends and you don't know what the gut feeling is yet. So I guess it makes sense he didn't get nervous.
Yeah. But he's the first boot of this season. Tragic. I don't know. I was happy that the first boot wasn't like the oldest person or just like a weak woman or something. Like it was an interesting first boot.
100%. I was going to be so mad if it's Sean or Keon going. Personally, though, I feel like it made more sense to vote one of them out because for Renier flipping the vote on the first vote to vote out a big player like Jason, I think it's a bad move. I think for Renier, it's going to bite him in the butt fairly quickly if he makes the merge, maybe. But I think the girls and the other people in the tribe are going to realize Renier flipped this vote on Jason, and he did it in a span of an afternoon. Renier, he had that tribal advantage. He didn't give it up. Renier is playing the game really, really hard. And so because he spearheaded this big move day 3, people are going to recognize he's a gamer. He's playing hard. He's dangerous. And I feel like he could get voted out quite soon.
Yeah, I think he's going to get his Achilles cut real quick just because, especially because he doesn't even try to hide that he's a gamer. So, yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like, Renier is in with the girls and Smash. But I feel like we saw a confessional this episode. Like the girls want to be with Dino more because they see Dino as vulnerable. I think Renier is like scarier because he has that serious personality and he did this vote flip versus Dino might be seen as, the dumb one that tried to canoodle with the other tribe. Like he's not playing the game smart because he's doing the dumb things. So yeah, I think Renier would probably go quicker than Dino, even though Dino messed up way more this episode. Renier, I think, is just showing his cards too soon. Voting out Jason, though, for the girls, 100% a good move because Jason wanted to target the threesome, and so he wanted to target specifically Amy. So getting rid of someone who is targeting you, great move. So I think good move for the girls, and by voting out a guy, the women on the tribe, if they did pull in Keon and Thoriso, you have 5 versus 4.
Yeah. So I think one thing is about Renier versus Dino. Like, I feel like everyone kind of knows that Dino is incompetent, and so it's easier to vote out the Duns whenever, whereas like you want to get the mastermind out before they can do too much damage, because it's like once Renier like gets an idol or something, that's when he starts being even more dangerous.
I agree. I think Dino, it would have been amazing strategy if this was Dino's strategy coming in. Like, I'm a super fan of the game. I'm so smart. I'm good at strategy, but I'm going to go in and pretend to be really dumb and bad at the game and make all of these rookie mistakes, but pretend that, and then come merge, turn on the charm, turn on the strategy, and like not act so dumb. Sort of like the whole surfer bro archetype, like, oh, they're perceived as not good at the game because of their long hair and surfer laid back attitude, but then they're actually come out and whatever, be fine at the game. But yeah, Renier sucks because he's a good strategist, it seems, but I think vote flipping this early was too much. He either, I think should have just kept it on Keon or Sean and just made Jason flip his vote again back.
Yeah, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, one thing that I found sort of interesting, Jason, in his last confessional after he was voted out, he was like, I was voted out because I'm a big threat. And so I don't know, but I feel like that was sort of weird because being the first boot, I don't think you can say, oh, I'm a threat in a like, you were like the first boot of the merge or you're a final four boot. Like that's a threat. But people voted you out because you're unpredictable and people didn't want to play with someone who is unpredictable. I feel like that's not really considered a threat. That's sort of being bad at the game. Like,
I feel like first boots call themselves a threat to make themselves feel better about having been the first boot.
I guess so, because personally, I wouldn't consider like if someone's voting you out because they can't work with you as a team member because they think you're sketchy, because they think you're unpredictable, that's not really threatening. Like you're blindsided because you didn't have your finger on the game.
Yeah. But I guess Jason, I feel like by the time we get to the end of the season, we'll have forgotten totally about him. So
feels bad always though when the super fans get voted out early because it's their dream to play the game and then to only last 3 days. It's sort of a bummer, and to only last 3 days where you're probably not going to get invited back unless there's like a first boot season, I guess. Something also is funny. I do wonder when like I guess people wanted to vote Keon out, like did they ask her, hey, how do you spell your name? Because it's like phonetically you'd think with a K, but it's spelled with a Q. So sort of names like that, maybe people ask Sean, because I would think you spell Sean like Sean, but his name is spelled like I forget, Hauw. Yeah. So it's like Sean is one of those names where you can spell so many ways. You're like, can everyone go around the circle and spell their name for me today? Because we need to know for the future.
I feel like it's one of those things where as long as it's readable, it's fine. And then if you're really pressed about it, when you get back to camp, you can just be like, by the way, my name is spelled like this.
That'd be
real
such
passive aggressive.
Such a cool move. Keon goes back and it's like, you fools misspelled my name. But it was interesting. Keon was in on the vote. So Keon did vote correctly and vote Jason out. So someone did tell her what was up. I wish we did see more of her because I felt like we didn't really see anything from her this episode. But Sean was on the wrong side of the vote and Sean voted for Keon to go. So it seems like the tribe left Sean out of the vote of like knowing who to vote for because he was close with Jason, versus Keon got in with the people and was told who to vote for.
Yeah, I guess it's just weird.
That, I wish we would have saw more of that.
Yeah. I feel like it's always hard when it's this early because you can't show everyone. Like we did not see anyone from the Orange Tribe basically after the like initial sequence. So
yeah, I think that would have been interesting. Like, what we probably can assume Sean was left out because he was friends with Jason. But I want to know, Keon, does she have a good social game? How did she get in there? Who brought her in there? Is she still on the outside for next week's episode? Are her and Sean on the chopping block again? Or are they like flipping things and like Renier or Dino will be on the chopping block next time?
I guess we'll have to see. just because there's so much left to do. And one thing I also want to talk about is, who do you think is gonna win the game?
Yes, the exciting part of the game. So, I don't know. I have a few winner picks, I guess. How about you?
I only really had one, but I feel like I could change just because I did not see enough of the other tribe to like be able to tell if I think any of them are possible winner potential. And I feel like I should disclaim that most of the time my winner pick is just who I hope wins. So,
yeah, honestly, yeah. I feel like from the first episode, you don't really get too much. For me, I picked a cluster of people that I think can go far or like do well in the game, and then like, people I want to see win, I guess. But yeah, I think we probably have similar ones. So I guess we can talk about Thoriso first. Like we just talked about in this podcast, Alyssa and I both really like her. I think Thoriso had an amazing first episode, even though I was a little bit scared at first because she was maybe on the outs of her tribe. Her reads on the game, the social dynamics, who's on the top and bottom of her tribe, spot on. And so I think if Thoriso can make it past these first few votes, because maybe she's like less physical and people might vote her out because of the challenges. If she keeps getting sent to the immunity island, it could keep her safe. But I think if Thoriso can make it past this early game, I can really see her going far. I think she just needs to get in with her tribe because it seems like right now she's on the outside.
I feel like the one thing with Thoriso, where even though I obviously like her and want her to win, I feel like she's being set up as like the narrator of the season, and the narrator of the season isn't necessarily always the person who wins it. Like sometimes the narrator is the person who comes in fourth or the person who comes in second place, and not
I was about to say
the winner.
The fourth place fallen queen.
So I feel like that could definitely be in her future, just because like a lot of her stuff was about other people and not necessarily where it fit in with her game. And like obviously this is just the first episode, so like it could very easily change. But that was just something I noticed.
I can definitely see that. I get like Werner vibes from her from Survivor South Africa season 6, where Werner had a lot of like good screen time and made moves in the game, but then he ended up being the fourth place fallen queen spot. So sadness if that is what happens for Thoriso. For some other people that stood out to me this first episode, I have Tyson, who was on the winning tribe, so the orange tribe. I like Tyson because even though he didn't go to tribal council this week, he had a lot of confessionals. He literally had 3 confessionals in the first 5 minutes of the season. So I can see him going far. It sort of reminds me of Tommy from Island of the Idols, where Tommy in that first episode, he didn't go to tribal council, but he still had confessionals of him talking about his social relationships, talking about him being a teacher and whatnot on his winning tribe. So I could see that as a way for Tyson.
Yeah, I can definitely see that also. I feel like for the winning tribe, I just had a much harder time like pegging down any of them. Like it seemed like the only person who definitely isn't going to win from the orange tribe is the hippie lady. Because they just like, they made a point of like kind of making fun of her and her tie-dye. So,
the South African Rupert?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from the orange tribe also, I think Anesu could go far in the game. She seems to have a good social game. She knows 2 other people. So if she does link up with them and makes a 3-person power alliance of people she knows, they could definitely run things. Although like Anesu versus Tyson, I would say I think Tyson can get further than Anesu, but because Anesu, it seems like everyone wants to be her friend. We saw this episode. Everyone did want to be her friend. Everyone was inviting her into alliances. And I think people coming down the line will realize that Anesu has such a good social game that they need to vote her out. But I do feel like Anesu with like Varda and Kieran could become a power alliance, and then those 3 could make it far. Maybe one of them gets cut because you just sort of have to let people go. That's what Jason needed to do. He needed to let Sean go, and so maybe that threesome would let one of their poles leave in their tripod. So I think one of them could be a casualty, but I think because she knows 2 other people, she would have a fine social game, but people will realize that she's such a social threat and vote her out.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely isn't going to be a longevity thing. So sucks, but I don't think she's winning either.
Yeah, I think definitely you can make it to the merge when you know 3 people out of your 10-person tribe. Like, and you can create the power structure.
You should figure yourself out.
But yeah, I guess any other winner picks, people you think that'll go far, Alyssa? Those were my 3 in Tyson, Anesu, and Thoriso. Those are 3 people I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really have anyone else. Maybe I'll revisit next week if the Orange Tribe, if we see more of them, just because I feel weird not knowing anyone from the Orange Tribe and being willing to say that anyone from the Orange Tribe is a contender based just on the fact that they like said one thing in the first 5 minutes. So
yeah, definitely. Hopefully our Orange Tribe does go to Tribal next week, because I want to see their tribe dynamics, because if a tribe keeps winning, we'll never see more of their tribe dynamics.
Yeah. So, yeah. Let us know what you thought about the premiere down in the comments below. Who are your winner picks? Is there someone that you thought we should have talked about that we didn't talk about? Do you think that voting out Jason was the right move? What do you hope happens in these upcoming episodes? We love to hear from you guys. We always think it's super interesting to get to start a conversation. And we will see you guys next week.